And we are now live.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everybody for being here. This is the Personnel Commission meeting and it's Tuesday, May 25th, and we are in our regular session, which is open session. We are still doing our meetings according to the governor's emergency executive order. We're doing them through Zoom. And if anybody has anything to public comment, then there are forms that they could send in ahead of our meetings. So I'm going to open the meeting with roll call.
Kathy James, Chair.
Here.
Susan Scher.
Here.
And Martha Giacomini is absent.
Okay. Thank you. And then the next on our agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. So Marty, would you like to lead us in that, please?
Absolutely. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thank you. And thank you for the flag, Ian. Okay. Number 4 on our agenda is the approval of today's agenda. So I'll need a motion and a second.
Second before I make the motion. I move to approve today's agenda.
Okay, and I'll second that. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Number 5 is our organization updates, and this is an opportunity for the Personnel Commission, the District Administration, or CSEA representatives to make a brief announcement. Do we have anybody who wants to speak to number 5? Okay, we'll move on to number 6. This is community input, and these are where members of the audience can speak to the commission regarding issues that are not on today's agenda. And this is where there's a public form that they can fill out to do so. Do we have any of those?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Number 7 is I'll need approval. So I'll need a motion and a second for our consent agenda. Do I have a motion? I second that motion. All in favor of approving the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. The next part of our meeting is reports by our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources and our Personnel Commission Director. So first, Nicole Gensler, would you like to make any reports?
Yes, I was not here last month, but so I might be reporting stuff that Marty previously reported, but I think not. First of all, as you probably are aware, it's been approved to have children age 12 and up get vaccinations. So we've had several vaccination clinics. So we've had vaccination clinics at both of our middle schools and at our high school. The high school vaccination clinic was a drive-through clinic. That one in particular was open to every household, basically, for students and staff of Ukiah Unified, any household member. So trying to really make it as easy as possible to get the vaccine or get a vaccine. We had several staff members assist in making phone calls to schedule people for that drive-through clinic. So I am so appreciative of our classified staff has been primarily those that have been helping get those appointments scheduled. So I'm super appreciative for the work that our classified staff has done in doing that. We continue to do COVID testing in our district, obviously, and as you all know, our county COVID numbers are increasing. So our COVID tests, we had negatives for weeks 0 positive tests, but now we are getting the occasional positive test. So the test works. So we are taking the appropriate measures when we get a positive test. This week, well, the end of last week, we updated our COVID student or staff member that is test positive for COVID, that it's not necessarily a shutdown of an entire cohort. It likely is, but not necessarily, depending on exposure. And we work with public health to determine if the entire cohort is shut down. At the secondary level, where students are better able to communicate who they've had contact with and such, we wanted to, it may not be necessary all the time to shut down an entire cohort. Some of our teachers are doing what they can to spread their students out. So many are having their students report to class, and then they do some of their work outside. So they're not even necessarily in the same classroom. So we're trying to keep that in mind as well. And in addition to that, many students are getting vaccinated. So that is really good to see. Wanted to report a negotiations update with our CSEA unit that we have just negotiated for next year a 0.5% salary increase. In addition to that, we've negotiated an increase to the district cap. Oh gosh, and the dollar amount escapes me right now, but it's a little over $1,000. That the district will now contribute to the benefits cap. So that means that that's going to be a significant change for a lot of our employees. And it's a new thing too, because for years, all the employee groups have had the same benefits cap. And now that is different because we have 3 employee groups, and 2 of them have an increase to the benefits cap and 1 does not. So, and negotiations for next year is not closed or are not closed, but we wanted to negotiate that increase to the benefits cap now to take effect October 1st, because our open enrollment for our health benefits is starting tomorrow. And we wanted people to be aware of this increase to the benefits cap, because in some cases it may determine whether or not they change plans. And we're super pleased to see that for many employees, they could have a higher level plan for 0 cost. So for the employee, not necessarily for dependents. So anyway, we're very pleased to see this change. And then the other thing that I wanted to report out about, and this is the one thing that I didn't check to see if it was reported last month, we negotiated with our classified unit and our certificated unit that for summer school, our instructional staff will receive a $70 a day stipend. So in addition to whatever their hourly rate is. That is very exciting. The instructional staff in summer school includes teachers, and it includes paraprofessionals and childcare assistants. And so doesn't matter what your hourly rate is, you're going to get your hourly rate. And on top of that, you're going to get $70 a day. So that is exciting. The reason to do that, that's being funded through our extended learning funds from the state. The reason for doing that is because summer schools aren't than it ever has been, and staff is less inclined to teach summer school than they ever have been. So we really needed to add a little something to incentivize teaching. And so we're really pleased to be able to pay. It's always good to see money go to people. And so this is an example of money going to people. And I think it's really intended to meet the needs of our students. And so to get more people, and it worked. We actually still have a couple positions that we haven't been able to fill as far as teaching positions. But as far as our classified instructional, we've pretty much got them filled. So I think that it accomplished the purpose. So that is good to see. And I think that wraps up my report.
Okay. Any questions, Susan?
Yeah, if you watch TV news, it seems almost like COVID's over and everything's back to normal and people are whooping it up in the streets. But Nicole, you mentioned our county's numbers are going up, which I find very alarming when it seems like most places are going down. So do you have any concerns that might affect opening in person in the fall?
I don't, the concern is really not the fall. Right now, the concern is about graduation. We really want to make sure that students can participate in the graduation. And of course, we also want to make sure that people don't get sick. That's the obvious. I don't want that to be unstated and therefore assume that we don't care about that. We do. But we're really concerned about students and staff not, kind of dropping their guard right before graduation and then having groups of kids that may not be able to participate in the graduation, even if they're not COVID positive, if they've been exposed.
Right.
So that is the concern. We're trying to get the message out about, be careful, be cautious, get the vaccine, because that will make a difference in how and the measures that public health will have us take to in response to a positive COVID case. So we are concerned about that, not so much for the fall, but for the immediate future, we're very concerned. I will say that one of the things that people seem to presume is that as things open up and other places are able to go without a mask, or because we're not vaccinated, we don't have to wear masks with one another. That is actually not the standard that we have. Right now, OSHA states that we can't discriminate in our COVID precautions between an employee who has been vaccinated and an employee who's not been vaccinated. So employees, even if they're vaccinated, if they're at work, they should be wearing a mask with one another. So I do hope that I do believe that OSHA's rules will catch up with the actual safety mandates or safety guidelines that were given. But right now, schools are very restrictive in how we have to apply COVID's precautions. So that still applies, much to the chagrin of many students and staff and parents. But yes, to answer your question, we are concerned about it more in the short term, though, than for the long term. I think part of the issue is that we spent the last year and really all last summer working really hard for what August would look like, only to see the rules change every few weeks. And so I think now we're at a point where we're going to hold off worrying about August closer, because we've seen the rules of the game change with very short notice. So we're going to keep our long-term vision defined as the next few weeks.
Okay.
Makes sense.
I was in a meeting last week, and it was reported in the meeting that as last week there were 19 new cases, but they were people who were already vaccinated.
Oh,
that were positive. So, and what was reported was they were either asymptomatic or they had symptoms, but they weren't awful, and they weren't hospitalized, and there were no deaths. So I think that's interesting too, because they're able to still find out how it's localized and where it's at. But those were cases that people had already had both vaccines. So for whatever that means. I have a question, Nicole. On the health insurance, the $1,000, exactly how does that help the employee that they can get a better plan? Is that what you said?
So the information will be sent out to employees tomorrow so they can look and see what it will mean for them. But a couple things have happened with our health benefits and that affect the structure of it. But what was negotiated was an increase to the district, or of what the district will contribute. And so what that means is that for the cost of whatever plan the employee chooses, the district is increasing the amount that they contribute. And so the more the district pays, the less the employee pays.
I get it. That's what I wondered. Also, I think in one of the weekly reports that the district puts out, I read that I can't remember exactly how many years back it's going, but there's going to be a refund. Or I don't think you call it a refund, but
it's I think it's 3 years back.
Wow. Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that happens every few years that we look and see if we haven't, if there's a, you know, if we haven't used, I'm going to sound really uninformed here. The word escapes me. If there are funds that don't get used.
Yeah, I know about those. Right. Yeah.
And so last year in particular, this is regarding our dental plan. Fewer people went to the dentist. They didn't. I
wonder why.
Right. So that's part of the reason for that is the reason for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. That's the employees are getting a raise. They're getting. I hope they feel valued.
I hope so too, because aside from the summer school, aside from the benefits, all of our employees also got a stipend, which I reported out about a couple of right. months ago, and that was paid out last month, I want to say. So I think that I'm getting good feedback from a lot of our employees, which feels good. Feels really good.
Well, it's good because not all districts are giving back or doing that.
Right.
So I think that's great. Thank you. Okay, anything else for Nicole, Marty, or anybody? No? Okay. All right, so you are on, our director.
I would just like to say thank you to Nicole. She went above and beyond once again for Employee Appreciation Week, Classified Employee Appreciation Week. Every day we got some little trinket, and on the last day we got a big trinket, which was super nice. Everybody commented on there were like different faces or decanters of some sort with a pretty lit up light inside this battery.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Every little teeny holiday we have, she has something on her desk for us, and that's just really sweet.
Well, just to be clear, that was only for the district service center. That's not all the employees. And
excuse me, yes.
I should not out myself, but a lot of people think I made some of those gifts. Not a single one. I bought all of them.
Well, forget it. I take back what I said.
We were going on and on about how creative you are and how on earth you find the time.
Yeah. Well,
still, but if she would have had the time, she could have.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Great. Okay. Thank you, Lori. Okay, Marty, do you want to give your report?
No, Lori just gave it.
Okay.
No, I did want to touch on a couple of things. Then the PC office happenings, as I said, May has just been a more almost bordering tornado, but definitely a whirlwind. We had our classified appreciation last week. We've had a lot of interviews going on, trying to fill positions to finish out this year, summer school, and the start of next year. The bags were a huge hit. The raffle has been a lot of fun. We had our second chance drawing. Not all the numbers drawn for the first 50 were collected. So we had our second chance drawing, and I have to say, there's only 3-4 items left. So if people don't pick them up by Wednesday, I'm just going to say, okay, first come, first serve. Whoever gets here first gets to pick, so they, get to have something. And so again, we're in the process of updating eligibility lists, doing a lot of advertisement right now to fill positions that, are continuing to end at the end of this year in hopes of having them filled prior to the start of next year. So crazy busy times. And then last but not least, the last paragraph or so, I kind of mentioned the idea of reviewing either well, both examinations and required or desired years of service. It's become a bit of an issue for some of our positions that are higher in classification. And so I won't bore you with that information now, but I will be bringing it back. Nicole and I talked about it a little bit earlier. I will be bringing it back in the next month or two to kind of talk about in more depth.
Okay.
But at this point, we have a week and 2 days of school left and a holiday in between. So we are definitely on our roller skates, jet-powered roller skates.
You said a week and 2 days?
A week from Thursday is the last day of school.
Yeah, so we have the rest of this week, then the holiday, and then a couple more days.
Yeah.
Wow. I know I talked to some of the students that I talked to, and they felt like fall took forever.
Yes.
And it was grueling and grinding and dark. And since about February, maybe March, to them, it's gone by really fast. And it's overwhelming to them how fast it's coming to an end. I find that really interesting because when I think about it, it's been like that. So anyway, okay. We are going to have a public hearing now, open the meeting for a public hearing. So I'm now opening the public hearing. And this is to adopt the Personnel Commission's 21-22 budget.
There were no comments or input received.
Okay, and so then I will close the meeting and bring it back to the commissioners, which would be you, Susan, and me. And do we have any discussion about it, or do we just want to vote?
No, we had discussion last month. I got my questions answered. I don't have any other issues. It looks
okay,
fine.
And I did too. So you want to make a motion?
Sure. So I move to adopt the Personnel Commission 2021-22 budget.
Okay, and I'll second that. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. You have a budget, Marty.
Thank you.
Don't worry. Okay, number 10 on our agenda are our action items. And some of these are second readings to policy changes. So 10.1 is the adoption of Personnel Commission 2021-22 budget, which we just did.
Mm-hmm.
And 10.2 is a proposed revisions to the classified job descriptions, the paraprofessional mild/moderate, paraprofessional moderate/severe, child care assistant moderate/severe.
So this is 10.2, right?
That's
yes.
correct.
Okay, it says 10.1. Just doesn't really matter, but just to point it out.
Oh, on mine it says 10.
On the packet itself, not the agenda.
Oh, okay. So, any discussion, questions?
So
this.
Yeah, oh, go ahead, Kathy. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the descriptions of mild, moderate, severe, that's the description of the children who are being cared for?
That's correct. Nicole can speak to this probably better or as well as I can. Some of the terminology used in these was very antiquated. And so in order to bring them up a little more modern and keep them on the same terminology as the teaching staff, these revisions were recommended and the board adopted them. And Nicole, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so this is a student who's identified for special ed is either in a mild, moderate special ed setting or a moderate, severe special ed setting. So the paraprofessional titles and child care assistant titles, we need to go with that. This is to say that they're in the severely disabled program. That's nobody has a credential that says credential for severely disabled. They have a credential that says mild, moderate, or moderate, severe.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this doesn't require any action.
That's correct. I just wanted you to see it. You know, anytime where he changes to job descriptions, I want to bring them to your attention.
Okay. Okay. Are we good with this one?
Yeah, looks fine.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, 10.3 is what I have next, and that's a approval of the education/experience and leveling of the proposed certificated classified management job description, school-based mental health counselor.
I do have one correction to make. The salary mentioned is not completely accurate because this position works fewer days than the counselor and behavioral specialist. The actual salary is slightly reduced from that.
Right, the salary where we have them on the salary is based on the daily rate and number of days. So that's the difference between this and the counselor one. The counselor one
has more days.
They're 195 days, and I think it's 195.
Yeah.
195, yes, and this is 188.
Okay.
And the Personnel Commission is involved in the leveling process, but we wanted to share with you the recommendation and why.
So, and then this is also a unique position that can be either certificated or classified.
Right.
So the salary here is, it will be the same salary, whether it's certificated or classified, unless
we decide
something different. So no pressure there. But that's how we've done our other counseling positions that have similar requirements, is that the salary is the same whether they're certificated or classified. But we bring it to you because you have the final say on how a classified position gets leveled. So
what's the difference between the certified and the classified?
So this is a position that you can have a PPS credential for.
Oh, that's and then it becomes certified. Certificated. Okay.
That's not the only licensing you can have. And so therefore it is one that you can be either certificated or classified depending on what licensing you bring to the position.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. So this doesn't require an action either, does it?
Well, it does, only because it involves the classified end of it. And so if you are in agreement with the leveling and the education and experience portion of this job description, which I highly encourage you to approve, then it does require your action to approve.
And this comes from special grant monies, right? Well, maybe it's not called grant monies, but it's being fed.
How it will be posted or how it will be paid for right now will be from special monies. No.
Special education.
This is special education. So, it does come, which does get contribution from the general fund. So, but it is a general, or it is a special ed expenditure.
Okay. Okay. So, do you want to make a motion, Susan?
Sure. So I move to approve the education/experience and leveling of the proposed certificated classified management job description of school-based mental health counselor.
Okay, and I will second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, you got it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm having to look this stuff up on my phone, so bear with me. Okay, D4, proposed revisions to PC Rule 408.1 and 408.6-1 examinations. I believe these are second readings coming up.
That's correct.
Okay, so if there's no discussion, I'll take a motion at this time.
Oh, moving right along here, I move to approve the proposed revisions to PC Rule 408.1 and 408.6-1 examinations.
Okay, thank you. And I will second that motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. 10.5 is also a second reading. It's the proposed revisions of PC Rule 427.2, prohibited record entries.
Correct. And as I shared with you at the last meeting, the board policy and administrative regulations, as well as I believe the bargaining units, have reference to discrimination. And because it is so redundant, I would encourage you just to eliminate. It's really unnecessary.
Right. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Wait, I'm sorry. This is 10.5, right?
Yes.
Prohibited record entries.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We did the examination. Well, I was confused about this, and maybe I'm just becoming more forgetful. Is this the same language that we were shown last month?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's the right. Go ahead.
Can I tell you my confusion, and maybe you can help me clarify this? So under the summary information, it says, so we know FEHA prohibits all forms of discrimination, but then it says, however, it does not require that no notation be made. Is that, and then under the proposed PC rule, the language just seems really, I'm having a hard time following it. And it is not permitted to require, permit, or suffer any notation or entry to be made upon any application. Is that the same thing as saying that it doesn't prohibit any notation to be made?
Yes, and that is another reason I think it would be in the PC's best interest to eliminate.
Might there be a way that's clearer to write it?
But Susan, isn't the issue that this whole thing will be stricken?
Yes, right. That's the issue.
So you're getting rid of that PC.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Well, that's
so there's
good
never to be
written so poorly that it
right.
looks like you're getting rid.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Okay,
that's the reason. And we don't need it.
Okay. But what is, but even, I didn't understand the government code section as it was paraphrased. Does not require that no notation be made. What does that mean?
So that I copied and pasted the notes from legal counsel, and it's in reference to our, so what she's saying is that the government code section does not contain the first sentence of our current PC rule. And she recommended eliminating that. And then when I went back and reviewed it, I realized the whole thing is redundant and unnecessary, and we should just eliminate the whole thing.
Right, I get that. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter because
it's just the terminology that she used.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to understand.
Yeah, really confusing.
I'm having a hard time understanding. I'm just curious because I used to do this kind of work, and I don't mean to be, too anal about it. But is she saying though that you can't, or the FEHA is saying you can't discriminate, but there's nothing stopping anyone from making a notation regarding a protected class?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You can make a notation of it. There's nothing in there saying you can't, but our policy says you can't.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you for bearing with.
So it was in contradiction to the government code, and again, because it is redundant and confusing in nature.
We're taking it
I'm
out.
recommending you eliminate it.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion?
Sure. So I move to adopt the proposed revision to PC Rule 427.2 prohibited record entries by actually deleting that section.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
10.6 is proposed revisions to PC Rule 428.1. It reads rights of public school employees. And this is a second reading.
Correct. So again, our current policy refers more to the rights of the organization than to the employee. And so therefore the recommended revisions take the section of ed or government code that refers to the employee's rights as opposed to the organization's rights. Does that make sense?
Yes,
because
it does.
We don't represent the organization. We represent the employee.
Employee.
Okay, so you changed the focus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that's very clear.
Okay. Okay, do you want to make a motion?
Sure, so I move that we adopt the proposed revisions to PC Rule 428.1, rights of public school employees.
Okay, and I'll second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. 10.7. This is about changing our meeting calendar for our July meeting, I believe.
Right, we discussed it a little bit at the last meeting. In July, I will be on vacation. Lori is taking a little bit of vacation. And since we do not have a meeting scheduled for August, we were hoping to either delay the July meeting and or eliminate it. But it gets a little hairy when we don't have two meetings, when we skip 2 meetings in a row. So if the consensus was that August 3rd would work for everyone, if, you know, we're happy to change it however you'd like, but we do need, that does require action.
Mm-hmm. And we discussed this, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, and it's fine with me, and I believe it's fine with Martha too, because she was at the last meeting. So I'll let you make a motion if you'd like to.
Okay, so I move to change the meeting calendar dates as indicated by the new calendar for 2021.
Okay, and I'll second that motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And to be clear, that meeting is covering for our July meeting. So there won't be any other meetings until our September meeting.
Correct.
Unless we have to meet for some special reason. So, okay. At this point, we're at number 11, and this is where public comment can
we
be
did not
for
receive any public comments for closed session
items. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to take the commission into a closed session, and we'll resume